Welcome to the Suicide Matrix, the Four Keys Training. And I'm Sharmin Prince, and I am the creator and facilitator for the Suicide Matrix. And the reason I created the Suicide Matrix is because I've been a talk trainer for the last 4 years, 5 years. And I took this training in 2019 and 2020 to Guyana. And after presenting it and asking questions, the the material, um, I guess I didn't present it well, and the feedback I received is that it was not culturally appropriate. So early this year, someone asked me to facilitate a workshop, and I decided to create something that is practical, something that is culturally sensitive and cross cultural. Because at the end of the day, I'm Guyanese, and whatever I do, I keep that in mind, and not just Guyanese, but for the Caribbean and those of us that are from any part of the world. So, this is a very open and culturally cross cultural training or webinar. So, thank you for joining. And as I say, welcome. And during my live presentation, which this was a live presentation, I create a contract because I expect, when we're in person, we have rules and regulations for whatever we're doing, if it's a workshop, a conference, or a presentation. So, but since we're not in person and you're receiving the webinar or participating in the webinar, this is not necessary. But before I continue, um, I think it's important at the beginning of the training that you have access to the numbers. I live in the United States, so I provided the United States information. If you would like to see your country's information included in this webinar, please feel free to send me the information, be it via social media or email or my website, whatever you choose. Just send me that information and I'll get it to you. So, this page is at the front of the webinar for a reason. So, just in case you get to a slide and you're triggered, please revert back to this page and contact a mental health specialist, a good friend who will not judge you, or any of these number or text or the suicide hotline. Just reach out to someone. And I wrote this poem for you. You are not alone. You're not alone in your dark night. You're not alone in your fight. You're not alone when you're feeling low. You're not alone when you need to go. You're not alone in your suicide. You're not alone in your life. And I just want you to know that you are not alone. What do we know about suicide? There are a lot of myths out there. There are a lot of uh, false information. But the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention states that it is a major health problem in the US, and I think in many parts of the world. Suicide kills more people than homicide. And in the US, it's the 10th leading cause of death. In some countries, it's number two, but yeah, um, I don't know which country you're viewing this webinar from. I don't know the stats in your country, but I know that there has been an increase in suicide among young people. And in the US here, it's between ages 45 and 54, but there are younger people. They have seen a surge after the COVID pandemic of suicide rates in some age brackets that there weren't high rates. And one would want to say, why would someone 85 years or older want to take their lives? We never know, and it's not our place to judge. Now, suicide rates are high among divorced and widowed persons, those that are unemployed, persons with mental illness, substance use, or financial problems. If you are having suicidal thoughts or ideation, I want you to stop the webinar, go to maybe your country's website, look for the number if you're in the US. And I think if you have access to international calls, you can call these numbers that are included here. When you hear suicide, what's the definition that pops into your mind? Many believe that suicide is a selfish act, but most people who die by suicide are in great deal of pain. And as I said earlier, if you are thinking about suicide, please get help from a mental health professional or a suicide hotline. Now, what is suicide? It is self inflicted death, self murder, or self destruction. And it occurs when someone performs an act that causes his or her own death. And seriously, I did not know that they called suicide self murder, because the safe talk training that I facilitated avoided words um, such as this and that statement: suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem. Whenever I hear people say it, I am triggered. And I know I'm triggered because, of course, I'm a survivor, but I included it here because it's a common term that is used. And oftentimes we're in circles or you're in homes. You might be a parent today and you may hear words or see actions from your children and you're not sure what it is. Here is a video that
I have my
can
ups and
provide
downs, just
information.
like anybody else.
Maybe more than anybody else.
I can be hard to figure out.
And I like my privacy. I don't want you looking over my shoulder all the time.
But you know your kid better than anybody else. And if you think he's acting different than usual,
Acting really down, crying all the time for no good reason.
or getting really mad, not able to sleep, or sleeping too much,
Shutting her friends out or giving her stuff away.
acting reckless, drinking, using drugs, staying out late,
Suddenly not doing stuff he used to love.
or doing stuff that's just not like him.
It might be nothing to worry about. It might just be high school.
Or it might be something more. He might be depressed, not just feeling down, really depressed.
It might be that your kid is thinking about killing himself. It happens. More than you think. More than it should.
And people say, I had no idea.
I thought it was just a phase he was going through.
I never thought she'd do it.
I wish he'd come to
I
me.
wish he'd said
I
something.
wish I'd said something.
When it's too late. So if you think your kid's acting different, if she seems like a different person, say something.
Say, what's wrong? How can I help?
And ask straight out. Are you thinking about killing yourself? It doesn't hurt to ask. In fact, it helps.
When people are thinking about killing themselves, they want somebody to ask. They want somebody to care.
Maybe you're afraid you'll make it worse. I have my ups and downs,
So
just like anybody else.
I just want to
Maybe
say,
more than anybody else.
sometimes we
hard to
think
figure
that
And I like my
asking
privacy. I
may
don't want
cause
you
a
looking over my
trigger
shoulder all
or
the time.
make it
But
worse.
you know your kid better than anybody else.
In those
And if you think
moments,
he's
you
acting
want
different than
somebody
usual,
to
Acting
speak
really
to you,
down,
to ask you
crying all the time
question,
for no good reason.
or getting
so
really
that
mad,
you can
not
say
able to
yes
sleep, or
and get the
sleeping too
help
much.
that you
Shutting her
need.
friends.
Now that you've watched that video, how are you feeling about continuing? And if you think that you're triggered by that video, or you're concerned about someone in your family or in your circle, please stop right now. Seek help for yourself or others. If you're uncomfortable or you might be triggered again, stop. If not, what did you learn about suicide that you didn't know from that video? Think about it. If possible, write it. Now, the suicide matrix, the keys are to open the doors of safety and support in the suicide prevention matrix. And these four keys are: one, warning sign; two, risk factors; three, protective factors; and four, the intervention. And key number one, the warning signs, are the early signs that someone may be at risk of suicide. The warning signs. And I like to use the example of a siren. You may be hearing the siren loud in your home. You may be hearing that siren loud in your inner circle or around your friends. You might be hearing that siren at school, at work, but you're so engulfed and engaged in your own world and your own problems, and all that is affecting you, that you're not hearing the voice of someone screaming and exhibiting warning signs of suicide. It is important for you to remember that there are many people who have suicide thoughts but never attempt to die by suicide. This is because they have many protective factors which you will learn about. Are you hearing the siren of the warning signs of suicide and you're unable to identify what it is because you're unaware and you don't know the behaviors, you don't know about the warning signs. Here are some. A person talking about they're tired, they don't want to feel the pain anymore, life is too painful, I feel trapped, I have no reason to live, I don't want to be a burden to others. And that's verbal, they're verbalizing that. Are you hearing? Are you present enough to hear what they're saying? Are you present enough to notice their behaviors? Because they've been withdrawing from activities that you all participated in or you knew that they love. They're acting recklessly. And some of those reckless behaviors can be promiscuity, alcoholism, substance use, visiting or calling people and saying goodbye. They're isolating from friends and family that they once wanted to be around. There is a sense of aggression that you have not noticed, or you actually check your child's phone and you realize that they've been conducting in-depth research on suicide methods. Or they're expressing extreme anxiety and agitation, or their mood is depression and rage and irritability, and they were not like that. If also that they're expressing feelings of hopelessness, feeling that things can't get better, it would only get worse, self-doubt. If you think that you have someone who is feeling this way, please contact a mental health professional immediately. And for the purpose of this webinar or the suicide keys, I've highlighted a few of the warning signs because these are the popular ones that we tend to ignore. Expressing feelings of hopelessness. It's kind of normal from time to time to feel hopeless. It's normal, especially when we're facing a difficult challenge. That sense of hopelessness steps in. However, if you or someone is feeling hopeless on a regular basis, more often than none, for even when there are no challenging situations around, it can be something more, because feeling of hopelessness is also one of the signs of depression. But luckily, there are so many things that you can do to ease these feelings. One way is to express your emotions in creativity, whatever creative skills and abilities you may have, like painting, drawing, dancing, purchasing one of my coloring books on Amazon and coloring just to take your mind away and make you comfortable. Seek help, right? If that, because it might just be your first time feeling that, and you may not have any other warning sign. That doesn't mean that you're suicidal, but it's good to seek help if you think it's lasting longer than it should. Speaking to a therapist and a counselor is the best gift that you may be able to give yourself, your child, or your any one of your loved ones, because it helps you to manage and articulate what you're feeling in a safe, non-judgment environment, and you can be supported and guided in the right direction. You spending more time with your child instead of going to the second job might be a source of support and hope for your child. The second warning sign that screams at us, talking about being a burden to others. And they might not use those phrases, but whatever it is that they're saying points to that. It is crucial for us to remain healthy emotionally. And when we're talking about being a burden and feeling codependent, it means that our self esteem is at a low level. We might be going through a difficult time. The impact of our problems are on others and it's being magnified. And getting a great deal of support can alleviate that burdensome feeling. And you can receive that support from a friend, a family member, even a stranger who decides to listen to you. Because you might be one of those persons who find release in talking. You might be vocal. And low self worth can lead to so many other problems. And if you don't feel worthy of who you are, find someone to speak to. And when I say find someone to speak to, find someone who is qualified, find someone who knows what they're doing, find someone who understands, not someone who claims to be, right? They must have academic credentials. You should not go to anyone for counseling, coaching, um, therapy unless that person have credentials, academic and professional credentials. I cannot emphasize that more. And you want to ensure that their academic credential or their professional credentials provides them the knowledge and the information to help you with whatever problem you're facing. Okay? Increase in alcohol use. you find that your child or your loved one is inebriated more often than before, they're using other drugs or substances. Substance use can increase the risk of suicidal ideation, attempts, and death because it increases our impulsiveness and decreases our inhibitions. That is a serious issue because of that increase in impulsiveness. The act of suicide becomes easy. Someone who's duly diagnosed who has substance use disorder and mental illness. And it's important for you to become aware of the signs of alcohol and drug abuse or drug use. And of course, to seek help if you're struggling with addiction or your loved one is struggling with addiction, can you just seek help for them? Find a substance use program, find a drug program, and introduce them to it. Here are some recommendations. If you notice warning signs of suicide in a loved one or friend, you you're now responsible and should reach out for help immediately. Without their consent, you don't need their consent, but you can give them the courtesy to let them know this is what you're doing so they will not feel betrayed. And if you sense that someone you're now able to hear the siren of the warning signs after you've completed this webinar, you must offer to help them find professional help. And if you think that before you find that professional help, they might go through on their decision, move away anything around the house that they can use to take their lives, knives, any sharp edge object. If you have a firearm, where I'm from, it's a lot of poisonous substances. Just move them away, keep them out of reach. And we are going to take a quiz. If this is too much for you, stop the webinar. It's not worth it. Come back after you have spoken to someone, or if you need to speak to someone, contact me. And our quiz. What are some common warning signs that someone may consider suicide, may be considering suicide? I want you to take some time to answer that. If you have a notebook, answer it in your notebook. And what are some things that you can do if you're worried that someone you know may be considering suicide? What are some resources that can help someone who is considering suicide? This is just a repeat of the resources. Talk to them about your concerns. And remember when you're speaking to them that warning signs are just that, warning signs. I think I mentioned earlier that a lot of people who may have warning signs does not take their lives. Warning signs does not is not a guarantee that someone will attempt suicide. However, they do indicate that person is at an increased risk and need help. Now, Safe Shores, this is a suicide prevention that they did. Be direct and open. Ask if they are thinking about suicide. Listen, empathize, and don't minimize the situation. Don't act shocked or upset. Be someone they can talk to about how they're feeling without judgment. Don't give advice or lecture. Show love and compassion. Don't push them to open up faster than they're comfortable. Take action by removing the means of suicide and getting help from a doctor or a helpline. And this is just a diagram of warning signs that we talked about. This is just a visual for you visual learners because I know presentations cater for the auditory learner. So I added visuals um, to help you. Now you're going to see at the end of each key, I'm encouraging you to take deep breaths. And this is the square where you inhale through your nose for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1. You hold it for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale through your mouth for 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold 3, 2, 1. Breathe normal. And now start again. In through your nose. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold it for 4, 3, 2, 1. Exhale through your mouth. 3, 2, 1. Hold it. 4, 3, 2, 1. Great job. Now you get the hang of it. And we'll be repeating that, I think, again 3 more times. And I hope at the end of this training, you will have a tool that can help you to be present. This is one of the tools that I teach first, even in my personal sessions with participants or in my self discovery program with practitioners. Breathing helps us to become present and be in our bodies. So I hope that you use this tool. Now, the second key in the suicide matrix is the protective factor. And protective factors are based on different aspects. Support system. A person who has a strong support system is less likely to kill themselves. A person who have a positive outlook on life, hardly likely. They have a sense of hope. Protective factors are those things, those qualities, those support system, the things around us that enhances who we are. high level of self esteem, um, not feeling isolated or alone. All these things help you to decrease or help to decrease the likelihood of suicide. Feeling that you have a sense of purpose can also help reduce the likelihood of suicide. So, if I may say, the protective factors of suicide are like cloaks or coats that we wear for the rain, for the winter, those coats that cover us. Those are the protective factors. And here is another poem. I know the darkness that surrounds you. I know the pain that you feel. But I also know the strength that lies within you. The strength to keep going, to keep fighting, to find the light in the darkness, to find hope in the pain, to find the magic in life. These are things that protective factors do for you. And just remember, you're not alone. If you are someone you know is struggling with suicide thoughts, remember that there is help. The four protective factors that can help suicide in general. I think I mentioned a sense of purpose in life, belief in the future, access to help and support, and a sense of connectedness to others. That support system is so important. Isolation and loneliness is a an attraction. Now, when we have a sense of purpose, it provides that happy and fulfilling life or sense in our lives. It becomes a driving force and a motivation. It is the guiding light in our lives. It brings lifelong benefits, as research has shown. Purposeful people tend to be more resilient to setbacks and have overall better health. Certain emotions and behaviors that promote health and well being can also provide us with a sense of purpose, specifically gratitude and a growth mindset. And I have a free um, gratitude webinar on YouTube, and there is a gratitude journal. I think it's $2.50 that can help you to begin to practice gratitude that expands on your mindset and develop a growth mindset. So when you develop that sense of purpose, it helps you prioritize your life. What's more important? What are my values and my aspirations? It could also help you to become resilient in the face of setbacks and to find meaning in everyday activities. That's a sense of purpose, and it is one of the protective factors in suicide. I believe that there is a brighter tomorrow and that the future is bright. When you have that favorable belief of the future and you know that things will change, that belief, when it's internalized, it becomes hope, it becomes optimism about what tomorrow brings. And it's an integral component that reveals your potential and provide that that added strength to ensure that suicide is not a part of your life equation. And this quote says the future is beyond knowing, but the present is beyond belief. Let me check in to see how are you doing? How are you feeling? And what are you feeling? Are you feeling comfortable with the information? Are you feeling safe to move on? And are you present with this process? Access to help and support. I know certain parts of the world because I've been working with some persons that suicide, help for suicide is not readily available. But if you're ever feeling lost or overwhelmed, you just need someone to talk to. Know that there are plenty of resources available to help you. There are 24/7 crisis hotline, crisis counseling session. There is a support app called My Mandatory Training Workspace. There is Lifeline that provides support. There are suicide support groups, Facebook, Clubhouse. In this age of technological advancement, there are so many resources available to you. Before you make that decision to take your life, just remember that there are resources out there to help you and you're not alone. A sense of connectedness to others, relationships, belonging, that sense of belonging. And it has been proven by studies to promote mental and physical well being because you feel love, you feel cared for, you feel valued, you feel respected. And those are in healthy relationships. When we feel lonely or isolated, it can be taken have a negative impact on our health. I can I can sit and tell you stories of the last 12 months. However, when we feel connected to others, we experience positive effects such as improved mental health. There's some mental health diagnoses, um, especially if you're undiagnosed and you're unable to connect with people. Um, and that inability to connect when you're in crisis, it becomes a deterrent to reach out because you don't feel connected. But connectedness bring meaning in our lives and even our physical well-being. So if you don't have social connections, love connections, I want you to begin to seek that. And you might be someone like me. What I did, I went to a group therapy where I can be among people and connect with their story so I can foster my inner connection. And I'll encourage you to do the same. I hope you're well. I hope you're doing well. I'm just checking in to see how you're doing. We're halfway through, and here is quiz number 2. What are some protective factors against suicide? And how can these factors be strengthened? Do family and friends play a role in protecting someone with suicide? And if so, what role? What are some of the warning signs of suicide people should be aware of? And what are some of those risk factors? How can you help someone who is exhibiting risk or the warning signs that you were just taught? Take a moment to answer these questions. And after you're done, join me in taking deep breaths through your nose. Breathe in all the protective factors that you may have, that connectedness. And as you hold it, let everything that is within you that is not serving you to connect with others, let it out through your mouth. Just let it go and hold that freedom and breathe normally. Again, taking a deep breath. You have access to support and help. Utilize it. And exhale anything that is preventing you from accessing that support and help. And hold that sense of freedom. Breathe normal. Again, take another deep breath in. Yes, breathe in. You have hope in the future. The future holds a bright light for you, shining on your dreams and aspirations. And everything that is within you that is dulling, or blocking that bright future of yours, let it go. And enjoy the freedom. Hold that freedom. Come back into the room with me. How are you feeling? Here's welcome to key number 3, risk factors. And these are things that increases the risk of suicide. And they're used to identify someone who is at risk. We did the warning signs, which are not concrete evidence, but it invites you or it welcomes you to have a conversation with the person. But risk factors increases the person risk of suicide. And I'm going to introduce you to a video. And I want you to know that these risk factors in suicide has no boundaries. Suicide does not respect anyone. Suicide does not respect the rich, the poor, no one. It don't care how much money you have. We've seen so many um, actors and actresses and persons that we deem successful take their lives. So suicide does not
Were you silent
discriminate.
or were you
And I'm going to
silenced?
show you a video that um, shows that,
Knew
proves
that if I
that.
didn't say it, that I would do it. And I just didn't want to be alive anymore. And that was a very clear and real and frightening constant thought. But we had to go to this event, and I remember him saying, "I don't think you can go." And I said, "I can't be left alone."
Because you were afraid of what you might do to yourself?
If you zoom in, what I see is how tightly his knuckles are gripped around mine. You can see the whites of our knuckles because we are smiling and doing our job, but we're both just trying to hold on. So we have in tandem the conversation of he won't be given security, he's not going to be given a title, and also concerns and conversations about how dark his skin might be when he's born.
Take that in. What do you think? Suicide has no respect. It's not a respecter of persons. Because you would not have thought that Meghan Markle, who who have the life of what we read as adults, as children about fairy tales, and everyone thought of marrying a prince. But here she is talking about wanting to end her life. Risk factors. Here are 4: mental illness, a history of trauma or abuse, a history of self harm, a family history of suicide. There's no single cause of suicide. research has identified that some risk factors that may contribute to suicide among young people. Mental health problems such as depression, anxiety, substance use, a history of trauma, all of these. Young people who identify as LGBTQ are at an increased risk for suicide due to the discrimination and the rejection they often experience. Trauma. If you know me, I've been singing that song and of the importance of addressing the traumas in our lives. And some trauma becomes PTSD. So if you're someone who has had traumas and have not addressed it, you might say, oh, suicide is for weak persons. It's a myth. Suicide does not, you don't have to be weak to take your lives. So if you're struggling with suicidal thoughts, please seek a professional immediately. Stop this video. A person with a history of self harm, a cutter. Self harm is often seen as a warning sign for suicidal attempts. I've been in a group where I asked to, because I was in isolation, and I kid you not, all of the young people, or the majority of the young people in that group, were suicidal or had suicide or survived suicide attempts. And I've never um, been up close and personal with someone who is a cutter, and I was able to see the cuts, the scars, the forearm, the scars on the legs. And one of them would constantly say that she don't see the sense in living. She didn't have a bright future. She didn't see hope for tomorrow. She didn't see none of that. But self harm can lead to suicide. And a history of suicide in your family. Um, I never knew anyone who had like multiple family members who died by suicide. And I met someone who sought me out on Facebook. Um, and while working with her, she told me her grandmother, most of the women in her family took their lives. And so, if you know that trauma, the research have found that trauma is or can be handed down by generations, and suicide can be very traumatic, and it's a part of our epigenetics. So if there were members of your family who took their lives and now you're having those suicidal ideations and you don't know where it's coming from, could be the epigenetic of those who went on before you who took their lives. If you're struggling now, because I've gotten a little more personal, please stop the video and get some help. You can come back later because it will always be here. Thank you. These are just some other common risk factors: substance use, isolation, problems in relationships, those toxic relationships that we don't want to let go of. Both times I attempted suicide, I was in an abusive, toxic relationship, and I just thought that I could have been Jesus' daughter because I thought that I can change this man and transfer him. You can't change nobody but yourself. So get out of those relationships that are so toxic. And I know it's not easy, but you have to first get out in your mind and become less codependent to leave. And sometimes all we need is support. Find a support group. And if you can't find one, create one. um or find persons that are in need of a support group and get a facilitator. I can find you a facilitator to help, but find the support that is needed for you. It's important to note that not all risk factors are suicide in nature. Studies have found that interventions targeting social connectedness can reduce the risk of suicide. And risk factors have a complex interplay. And it is clear that a comprehensive approach is needed to prevent suicide in youths. Quiz. Here are some things that you can do. Ask direct questions if they are thinking about suicide. Talk about reasons why life is so worthwhile living. This is not the quiz, sorry. This is just encouragement for you. Things that you can do when you have identified risk factors. And of course, we'll breathe. You know the drill. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe, hold it. Breathe out through your mouth. Hold it. Breathe normal. Continue if you choose to. We're almost to the end. Breathe in again. Just breathe. Just breathe. Breathe out. Breathe normal. Now take a deep breath in and hold. You're doing so well. I'm so impressed with you. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I hope you enjoy that song. If you've ever taken any one of my self discovery, healing the soul, whatever, you have heard that song before. If not, you heard it for the first time. Now, the final key is intervention. And interventions are the actions that can be taken to reduce the risk of suicide. It helps someone who exhibits risk, who are at risk, and whose um, protective, even their protective factors are might be, low. And I call the intervention IDS, You identification, development, and support. For identification, you identify the risk factors that can lead to the likelihood of suicide. While you know the protective factors are associated with a decreased likelihood of suicide, risk factors are an increase. And it is important to note that they're not static, they can change over time and they can interchange. Your protective factor can become a risk factor because if the person has a social support system that has been their protective factor and they lost that support system, it becomes a risk factor, right? So identifying the risk factors is the first step of intervention. And you might be able to identify quite a few. Developing in the intervention phase of the suicide matrix includes three major steps: promoting, challenging, and encouraging. And you encourage the person to talk about their problems and stressors, sorry. Help them develop a support network of family and friends. Teach them how to identify healthy coping mechanisms and how to use them. The simple deep breathing. If you've never done that, I'm sure you sense the power and the benefits of doing that. There's so many benefits, health benefits, psychological benefits. So that simple deep breathing matter that I taught you or that we participated here, helping them to plan for dealing with crisis. Like you can create a little card. Whatever is important to that person, you create the card. And if they're in crisis, create a color code that they will call you and say, hey, I'm code purple, and you know what code purple means. So develop a system with them and challenge negative attitudes about suicide. Talk about suicide openly. It should be a dinner table conversation, and challenge the belief that suicide is selfish, because it's not. You don't know what the other person is thinking or feeling at that moment, and you might not be an important factor in their decision, or family or friends may not be important at that time. Challenge the belief that suicide is a sign of weakness. If we are having those discussions at the dinner table, we know that it's not a weak person, but a person who might be isolated, and encourage seeking help. Promote positive coping mechanisms for dealing with difficulty. Encourage help seeking behavior in our homes, especially in third world countries, especially in the Caribbean. We're taught that seeking help and therapy and counseling is for weaklings. That's a lie. There's certain things that happen within the family that you cannot tell the family, or you might not be in that place where you can share it with them, but you'll share it with a counselor, you'll share it with a therapist. So promoting that and having these discussions at the breakfast table or the dinner table can be a source of support. So I want to encourage you to start having that conversation and challenge negative attitudes about suicide. You hear people making comments that suicide is a permanent decision for a temporary situation. You don't know what's temporary for anyone. And don't be judgmental. Take off your judgmental hats and get out of that space. It's not a healthy space for you, for the individual that is being judgmental. Okay? And finally, support. That support system, I think it's common throughout the warning signs, the protective factors, the intervention, risk factors, important. And what can you do? You can support them by talking to them and offering help and resources, keeping your judgments and your opinions and your advice, because you're not in their shoes and if you've never attempted to take your life, you don't know what it feels like. And you can preface your support by saying that I do not know what it feels like, but I'm here for you and I am going to support you. And it's important for you to look at the warning signs. If they're talking about taking their lives, wanting to die, and you can ask, are you thinking of suicide? I remember I had a staff, um, and we were about to embark on our supervision. And in our supervision sessions, they have to walk with an agenda, and I have my agenda. And when she walked into my office, immediately I felt in my spirit that this is not a time for us to have supervision. So when she sat down and she gave me a copy of her agenda, I told her we are not going to follow the agenda today, and I turned it down and shut off my computer. And I said to her, let's talk. And she broke down into tears and proceeded to tell me that when she walked into the office through the front door, in her heart she's saying that this is the last day I'm coming to work, because her plan was to take her life. And I always follow my intuition. I have a sixth sense that I follow, and I sought and I got help for her, etc., etc. But sometimes it's important to follow your intuition and know what to do and what to say in those moments. So you can ask, and if they and when I asked her, she had a detailed plan on how she's gonna do it. So find someone, as I kept reiterating, find someone that you can talk to, find a support group online, find a private forum. You can also refer them to SAMHSA. SAMHSA has a volume of resources, and SAMHSA is Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, that you can actually do. So quiz number, the final quiz. Oops, should be quiz number 4. How can you encourage someone who is thinking of suicide? You think about it. You know your skills. You know your ability. You know what you can do. And utilize your strength, your talent, your skills, your ability. And you ask them, how long have you been feeling like this? What seems to be triggering these negative feelings? What are your triggers? What can you do to support them? And you can ask, what can I do to support you? And you also ask yourself, when they answer, can I provide this support to them? How can I make you feel better? and let them talk more about their feelings. And sometimes some people just need you to stay with them. And here is the end of the keys. And the next will be self harm. And these are some bonus. This is a bonus for you. But before we do the bonus, I'd like you to sign up for, if you're desirous of having a suicide prevention training for, let's say, your staff, your office, your family, that can be arranged. We can have a life suicide prevention training. The other parts of the matrix will not be available for free, but it will be available for a minimal cost at the Soul Institute, but it has to be, requested. It's only by request. Thank you for your time. You can visit sharminprince.utoba.com. And there are a lot of other free webinars there that you can enjoy. Have fun. And here are some bonus slides on preventing self harm and why people harm themselves for many reasons: to cope with intense emotions that might be overwhelming to them at that time, and it is always a sign of distress and should be addressed by a mental health professional. And self-harm is a way that people punish themselves, but it's a dangerous behavior, because I saw the places that some people cut. If they go too deep, they can cut an artery, or a blood vessel. So it is a dangerous behavior. And how can you help someone? By encouraging them to get help. Avoid being not non-judgmental. You've heard that a lot in this webinar. Reassure them that you're there and you care. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's one of my favorite quotes, and it has become my life principle and value system. And that's by Teddy Roosevelt. And keep harmful objects away from people that are self harming. And here are resources again that you can seek. Some people self harm with food. National Eating Disorder Association. If it's too much, 911 emergency. There is a specific self harm hotline here in the US, 1 800 866 8288. The National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. And there is a text also, a line that you can text 741 and you text home, HOME, to that number, and you'll get a response. Someone who self harm should talk to a doctor, reach out to someone, and seek mental health help. Thank you. And as I said, check out our other webinars on sharminprince.utobo.com. Email me at info@eaglesoar.org. Can give me a call, 347-543-3482. And who am I? I'm Sharmin Prince. I am the creator of the suicide prevention training. I have more than 20 years of experience as a trainer and developer of trainings. I have trained from front desk concierge at my former employer. I trained front desk staff, department heads, case managers, substance abuse counselors, credential wise, because you people like to know your credentials. So I have two masters of science degrees, one in organizational leadership from Nyack College and the other one in psychology from Grand Canyon University. Um, I'm a life coach, a certified trauma professional, an attention and trauma releasing exercises provider. That's who I am. And here is a disclaimer, our copyright policy. This is my intellectual property. Um, I have not plagiarized anyone's material, and I don't expect anyone to do that to this. My material that I sat and researched and completed. Um, it should not be distributed or sold without my permission. You can use it, um, but seek permission. Be sure to visit charminprince.utobo.com for some really good programming and trainings. Thank you for your time. And I would like feedback on how you feel. What was your experience? Take care of yourself. And remember, if you need help, do not be afraid to sought after that help. If you're afraid, call me and I would help you through over that hump. Thank you for your time.